Welcome to the regular board meeting of the Webster Grove School District. Here we are, June 13th, 2024. If you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, has everyone had an opportunity to review the agenda? If there are no changes or amendments, I would accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you so much. Now we move on to public comments. There were 4 or 5 written public comments. So if you have not seen those in your packets, please check them out. Sherry, were there any in-person public comments? Oh, Derek has them. There are some? Okay. Excellent. So the board welcomes questions, ideas, comments from persons in attendance. Members of the audience may comment during the public comment portion of the meeting when recognized by the board president. We ask all comments to be limited to 3 minutes in order to complete the agenda within a reasonable time. And we also ask that comments begin by providing your name, address, and school district in which you reside. First up, Joshua Trampler.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Joshua Trempier, and I live on Jackson Road. I have 2 children in the school district. I'm returning to provide comments on the parent who brought an issue of concern to the last school board meeting. I had remarked that the speaker would use lazy inaccuracies to make his point. After hearing his remarks, one example comes to mind. The parent stated, "As it stands, facility and curriculum separation in Webster Grove School District is based on gender identity per the superintendent's administrative policy. This is inconsistent with MOREV Stat 170.015, which covers separation of students based upon gender. Clearly, the district, I think, would be in violation of Missouri law." Missouri Revised Statute 170.015.3 is a passage providing guidance on how sexual education is to be conducted. It actually states, "A school district or charter school which provides human sexuality instruction may separate students according to gender for instructional purposes." The context of the parent's remarks was regarding, among other things, gender separation in restrooms. Citing sex ed legislation to make a point on restrooms is quite a stretch. Given that the law says a school district may separate students for sex ed, saying that Webster Grove's district is in violation of Missouri law is an outright falsehood. I also said that the speaker would make arguments in bad faith. One that comes to mind is when the parent spoke about his concern for the school board being in violation of Missouri law, putting the district at potential risk for a lawsuit. Federal law Title IX forbids discrimination based on, among other matters, sexual orientation or gender identity. The speaker briefly mentioned, but conveniently glossed over, the Title IX concerns and potential jeopardy to the district's federal funding, as well as a federal investigation should the district not comply with Department of Education policy. Multiple news outlets have noted that school districts around the country are between a rock and a hard place, lose state funding or federal funding by offending one or the other. Where is the speaker's nuanced view and empathy when it comes to preserving federal funding? Additionally, I protest the decision to allow last meeting's speaker to sit at the table with the board and district staff. This gives the speaker an additional air of legitimacy by cloaking them in the trappings of an office to which they were neither elected nor hired. Next time, such a speaker, on whatever topic, should take the standing microphone just like the rest of us parents. I support our transgender students. Based on the representation from our district at the previous meeting, the majority of Webster Groves does as well. I also support discussions which are about issues of import, rather than, for example, clout chasing on charged topics that have little to do with increasing the prosperity and satisfaction for Webster Grove students. Thank you for your time.
All right, next we have Miss Lauren Ruma.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lauren Ruma. I live at 751 Edge Grove. My children attend Avery Elementary. I'm here to speak about an item on the agenda this evening. Miss Pam Frazier will be presenting on extended bus routes. If passed, this item will be a security measure implemented by the Webster Grove School District to ensure children who cross hazardous roadways have a safe route to school. I encourage each of you to please approve this item and action plan for safety. I would like to thank each of you with my deepest sincerity, everyone who probably had to work on this, all the behind the scenes that I never got to witness. Thank you for your time on working on this. It really means a lot to us parents that you would care enough to make sure our kids get to school safely. Thank you for your time once again, and thank you for everyone who worked behind the scenes on this. Thank you, guys.
All right, now we move on to the MSBA board recognition. Dr. Simpson?
Recognizing Dr. Grace Lee, who completed her MSBA certified board member training. So, congratulations, Dr. Lee. Yay.
All right, moving on to celebrations from the student advisors.
This actually isn't the celebrations from student advisors. It's really a celebration of the student advisors, but we do have that coming up. And tonight, I just wanted to kick it off by recognizing both Ali Schultz, Reagan McCoy, who's not here yet, for there she is. Come on up, Reagan. Hello. You'll remember Reagan and Ali were selected from a competitive pool of sophomores a little over a year ago, year and a half plus, to serve in the advisor capacity. And they have done an amazing job. They've shared their thoughts and feelings. They've been punctual. They helped us select the new. That wasn't a call out, Reagan. They have been punctual, and they've also helped us select the next advisors that will present at the August meeting. So, we just wanted to thank you, and I'll open it up if anybody else wants to share a remark about Ali and Reagan before we give them a parting thought if they'd like to share.
I just want to say I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to sit in a space like this. It can seem really intimidating. And as young people, I think your voices are so important to be present, to help remind us our roles, and that you are the center of, you really are the center of why we sit here. Children should always be the center of the decisions we make. But then also to see your leadership, and that it's not just grown-ups that have the power, the authority, and the leadership, but really it truly is your voices. And then so to sit with you all this year is so encouraging to see the hope for our future and how you will all lead us and show us and take care of us. So thank you.
I'll just add to that. Thank you both. You guys have been really good and given us a lot of good insight. And I know it's been hard sometimes when you've had practices and you're trying to do 25 things at once. So we do appreciate your thoughts and taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. So thank you.
They both have pretty much said everything. I'll just say ditto. Thank you guys for being here, and we appreciate all your input. And like Dr. Lee said, it does take a lot of courage to sit in this room. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I'd say same thing. I'd say the same thing, those things, but also, next year or this coming school year, feel free to come back and get up there and give us some public comments and give us some feedback. You don't have to be an advisor to come speak at the meeting, and now you know a little bit about kind of maybe the behind the scenes, but very much appreciate your input.
And I'll just say, I think it's really important to all of us to have student representation here and to understand our students' perspectives. So I just want to thank you for taking your time to do that this year.
I also want to thank you for sharing your perspectives and for sitting up here and echo what everybody else says. I would also encourage you, if you have ideas on how to grow the voice of our student advocates, that you would share that with any of us or with Dr. Simpson. Thank you.
Yeah, so the downside of being last, right, everything's been said, but just sort of echo, particularly that student voice, right? I think that is the thing that always centers for me in all of our conversations, trying to keep the students at the center of our decision making and our thought process and centered on what we're thinking about with every decision we make. So having you present in these meetings at this table is always extremely important. I hope you always felt your voices were heard. And like Alex said, I would definitely encourage you all to come back, give us public comments, email us, stay plugged in and stay in touch, because it really is important for all of you to provide us that input. Dr. Simpson and the board, we have a small little token of thank you for each of you. While I'm bringing these over, as usual, we'd love to, if you guys have anything you want to say, any parting remarks or updates you'd like to provide, we'd love it.
I mean, yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity. It's been great to get this experience and get to see the behind the scene work with what goes on at the high school and all the other places. And it's been a really unique experience for me, and I'm really excited I got the experience to do that, and yeah.
I'm going to echo off of Allie for a little minute. I also want to say thank you to you all and how welcoming you all have been at these meetings, making me feel comfortable in the setting and allowing me to learn from all of you guys. So I was really happy to take on this opportunity with you all. So thank you.
Excellent. Board calendar. Anything new?
No, nothing new, just a few just holidays and this meeting. And we did give Ali and Reagan the permission to skedaddle since it is summer, and they are both busy. So thank you both. Yeah.
All right. We will move on to celebrations from the district.
Good evening. Hello? All right. Good evening. I have a couple of celebrations tonight. First, I just want to mention real quickly, although a big focus, we received a grant from the Missouri After School Network. They awarded our district a summer enrichment grant of nearly $100,000, $99,925 to be exact. And the funds will help with continued expansion of our summer school experiences at both Hickson and our elementary summer exploratory experience, which we call C. The materials covered in the grant include some field trip transportation costs, registration fees for off-site experiences, and supplies to support project-based learning. So this is another great grant that the district has received that we're really excited about and thankful for. Summer school's been underway for a couple of weeks, and it's been going really well. And then next, we have some people here this evening that we would like to recognize. I will talk a little bit about it. This is for our athletics students this spring. I first want to invite up Paul Castleman and Coach Justin Arnold up to the front. So Paul Castleman this year in tennis earned fifth place overall in the state championships. Once he got to state, he only lost one match against the eventual state champion. So he won the consolation singles title, which is 5th place in the sport. He was also recently named, I think as recent as like today, to the All Metro Boys Tennis second team by the Post-Dispatch, coached by Justin Arnold. We thank Paul for all his hard work. I'll have Coach Arnold here talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you all for having Paul in tonight. I've had the fortune of coaching Paul the last 2 years, Webster has the unfortunate, I think, draw of always being put in the same district as Ladue, MICDS, Chaminade, and a lot of other really good teams. And it's well known that usually the state champion comes from our district, especially in the team aspect of it. Paul almost qualified from our district last year as a sophomore, which is incredible. He was one match away. Him qualifying out of our district this year was even more special because I know that was heartbreaking for him last year, and it takes kind of a really special athlete to go through that kind of adversity and to be that close and to come back the following year and do it. Everybody who's seen Paul knows he's an incredible tennis player. Tennis in high school is so cool because you play it also as a team. Paul takes blows every day in and out from other teams' best players, which is really hard to do. He gets no days off. But Paul is the biggest cheerleader for his teammates. I've watched a lot of other high school tennis players, number one players from those teams, and a lot of them are very concerned about themselves, their results, and that's it. And you will never see that from Paul Castleman. He is a special tennis player, but even more special individual. I think the world of him. He's such a great person to have on your team, to lead your team, and I'm just so happy. I've known he's one of the best players in the state the last 2 years, and I'm so happy that the results bore out the way they did this year because he absolutely deserved it. So thank you for recognizing him. He certainly deserves it. There is no better representative of Webster Groves in this school district than Paul Castleman. So thank you.
All right, next, if members of the Webster Groves High School baseball team can come forward. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the team, and then I'll turn it over to each of them as they're all, they're recent graduates now. They're alumni for the district. I remember going into the season, we talked with some of the members of the baseball team, and they were really excited to play this year, not only because a lot of them were seniors. They were led by 13 seniors, I believe, but they were playing on the brand new turf field, which ended up being really well for them. I don't know if it was the turf that did it or you guys. It was the guys, I'm sure. I'm sure it was the guys. The team excelled this year. So during the regular season, they were 17-14. They won 5 straight games. Or I believe they're 15-14. They won 5 straight games to advance to the state championship the Final Four. And it was the baseball team's first Final Four since 1969 and their first ever championship game. Ultimately, they lost in that final. It was a great game. And they really captivated the entire community, I think. You probably saw numerous people talking about it online. I know the family members, the parents who are here today, they enjoyed every second of this run, I'm sure, and we'll highlight that. We have some members of the team here today. A lot of the members of the baseball team currently playing in baseball tournaments over the summer. Summer is prime time for baseball, as you all know. We're thankful for those who are here. So I'll read your name, and you can come forward. Start with Peter Hartman. Next is Drew Patrick. Jackson Torbett. And Brody Zarkey. Now, each of these students are also seniors, recent graduates, so I'd like to invite each of them up and talk about what they're doing, here and now and in a couple months. So we can start with, you want to come up first?
I'm Drew Patrick. I'm attending Maryville University next year to play baseball, and I'm majoring in marketing.
Good evening. I'm Peter Hartman, and I will be attending Central Methodist University to play baseball, and I'm majoring in exercise science.
Hi, I'm Brody Zaki, and I will be attending the University of Mizzou.
Hi, I'm Jackson Torbett. I'm going to Central College in Iowa to play football and baseball, and I will be majoring in education.
And since they don't have a coach here, I do also, I'm not a coach, but I also just want to say, as somebody who was along for the ride, again, certainly all the victories, being the Class 4 champs, being the last year's Class 5 champs, all those kind of things were incredible. The team played amazing. But as somebody who watched a lot of those games with my son and people, how you played, like how you competed, how you interacted with the umpires, all those things, you made every single one of us proud. How Coach Arnold described Paul, who is an amazing human being I've known for a long time, he and his family, is how you played too. And that's what really matters in life, what transfers, the skills, the hard work, the perseverance, and how you live your life. And you guys did an amazing job. And as always, we want to recognize the coaches. We want to recognize the families because you've committed a lot of hours for many years to these young people. Again, getting them to practices, processing with them when they're losing their minds with maybe a tough loss or something like that. And that's huge. You're incredible assets to them. And we can't thank you enough. And I know it's always, for me personally, super fun to watch just you all watching them, the ups, the downs, and everything, and just the joy that they bring you. So congratulations, Paul. Congratulations to you guys, and wish you the best. And Paul, we'll get you back on the mic next year. Okay? All right? All right. Thank you.
We are going to take one photo before you step away. We're going to take one photo, everybody up here. If Paul comes too, we're going to come right here.
All right, we're going to move on to celebrations from the board. If we can go around like we normally do and give your individual celebrations, then we have some larger celebrations at the end that we will do as well. So celebrations from the board. Who would like to start?
I'm going to go first so I can steal all the big ones. Just again, congratulations to all of our spring athletes who've had such a good season. And graduation, again, was so good. And I think every year we have it at Chaffetz, it just gets a little bit more comfortable, and you realize what a good change that was, as hard as it was to give up Mossfield. So thanks to everyone that worked on that. It was really good.
First, I want to say I just am so thankful that we're in a wonderful community to serve as a board member, that our community, for the large part, supports our schools, our students, and the work we do. appreciate that. Secondly, I'm so thankful that our schools have summer programs, and including C, and now as my daughter's going into high school, she's already in the high school taking classes, mostly in an effort not to have to dress out for gym during the school year. So I'm so thankful to the teachers and I saw a barbecue pit and folks in a barbecue class, just ways to engage kids and students in fun ways. And related to that, one day I picked up my own student and a couple of other students to take them over to the pool. I was getting my daughter's pass renewed because it was the day for it to be renewed. And one of the young girls who was with us just went over to the side of the table and asked for that freestyle swim pass that I think we support with the city. And it just was easy peasy, no questions asked, and everybody got to swim together and walk in. So I appreciate that effort of the Alliance for Interracial Dignity and the city for supporting all of our students.
So apparently I should have also gone first because those were my two celebrations. I just wanted to mention graduation. It's always, I haven't had a graduate myself, and I just get choked up and get the chills every year. I'm a part of it. So it's just such a great ceremony. This year I got to be a part of the Hickson promotion ceremony. That's a great one too. I did have a graduate in that one. And I also wanted to talk about our summer programs and just thank everyone for all the work that goes into that. I know, we're all, I think everyone's kind of looking to the end of the school year as the finish line, and then a lot of you keep going. So I just wanted to thank everyone for that. It's great for the students and great for the families. So thanks.
Well, again, I'll just say ditto. Ditto on the graduations. I was going to thank everyone who is participating in the summer programs, the kids, the teachers, the staff, administrators. Thanks for putting forth that extra effort in this heat and with all the bugs and things that have been crawling and things like that. And yes, thanks again for a wonderful graduation. That was awesome. I did have a graduate. That was great. Thanks for everybody.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna thank all the staff that's working this summer for sure. The nurses, all the positions that you don't necessarily think of when you think of summer school, doing everything to make it as normal. Feel like a normal school day to an extent, but maybe with a little bit more fun. And so I think that's great. And I had something else, but it's just gone away. So it's already probably been mentioned. So I'll pass.
Definitely echo and piggybacking off of Alex. I think the end of the school year was so great, and so all the work that goes in to make that the end so smooth and so fun that I still have a child who cries on the last day of school because she's sad that school has ended. I don't know how long that will last, but for now. But I think shout out to the fact that the reality is the most work gets done in the summer. Principals, teachers really are not off 2 months out of the year. They're just unemployed. But they are still working and thinking and planning lessons and attending PD. And same with all of our administrators. That's when they get all their work done because there's not 500 people interrupting them every hour. So kudos to just the educators that keep school humming year round so that come August 20, whatever the date is, it's a smooth opening day to welcome kids back into that excitement.
Thought of it. I drive down Elm from 44 every day, and I always look over at Hickson, and I see the work being done. So I also wanted to give a big shout out to the whole maintenance team, everyone over there that's helping keep all that work really moving and starting and moving really well. I can't wait to see the big wooden structure come down and see some new windows at the middle school. And then also It's been mentioned a few times, but Moss Field, I know we're going to talk more about it in a bit, but oh my gosh, it's so awesome to look at every day. It feels like, and I drive by there enough, like in one day, the amount of work that's accomplished is just amazing. So big shout out to all those folks working on that stuff.
Yeah, just to sort of pick up there, Alex, I actually have had a couple of community members, one of them even being my wife, ask me, "Oh, are they building awnings on over the windows at Hickson?" So I had to explain, no, as part of that process. But yeah, it's great to see that work happening. Echo everything I was going to mention, the wrap up of the school year, but Dr. Lee, you said it better than I could, so ditto to that. Thanks to all of our teachers and staff for a great end of the year. And summer school, right? Like, I would just want to add a couple of additional details from having, someone at the elementary level, like exploring space and the constellations and stars, to, my daughter's taking classes at Hickson that I wish I was taking, crime scene investigation and like aquatics engineering and like all these things. Like, I want to go do those classes, right? And I love that our students have that opportunity to not only stop what you call some of that summer slide through these courses, but they're actually, in a fun way, they're still learning a lot, and putting in the time and energy in this fun way to learn is awesome to see. So I'm really thankful for that program. And finally, it was mentioned graduation. Yes, graduation is always probably my favorite event of the year. The only thing I will add that wasn't said before is this year's student representative speaker was out of this world. That gentleman was incredible. Everyone, if you haven't seen his speech, go find it online, listen to it, watch it. It was very moving, very encouraging. If that's the kind of young people we have leading us into the future, we will be in very good hands. So now we have a couple of special celebrations. We want to take a minute. We have 3 folks that have been with the district for a long time, that this is their last board meeting. They are retiring after many years of service. We're going to start with Mr. Doug Copeland, who's sitting right there in front of us. Doug has been the attorney for the district for 36 years, 37 years. My math's a little off, so forgive me. His family has added a couple of decades onto that as he took over for his uncle. So there has been a Copeland advising the Webster Grove School District for many, many decades. Doug, your service has been invaluable. Your advice has been invaluable. We very much appreciate the time and energy you have given us. That council has been incredibly helpful as we've navigated everything from a typical school year to COVID to everything in between. So open it up to the rest of you to say a little bit of congratulations and thoughts to Doug as well.
I will just echo what Alan said. You have been such a good resource for us, and I think always a sound, calming mind, and making sure that we're doing the right thing, and we so appreciate that, and appreciate you being here when we need you to be here. So best of luck. You'll be missed for sure.
I was just going to say the same thing. Again, ditto. We appreciate all your work and all the extra hours and all the emails and all the thought that went into helping us traverse this sometimes bumpy road that we traverse in education. But please enjoy your retirement. Send us some sand from whatever beach you're going to be on. And thanks again.
Doug, I'm guessing that about 5 years ago, as you might have been imagining your last few years before retirement, you never would have imagined some of the things that we've had to deal with in terms of pandemic and book bans and all the other things. I just appreciate your steadfast dedication to the work we're doing and the support you provide to the district. Meeting for you the first time and just hearing your down to earth ability to connect with folks. I was driving, my husband was speeding me down Brentwood to make this meeting today, and I just thought, oh gosh, just with the folks retiring, and especially you and the years that you've spent with our district, I think it's gonna be hard for someone to come in and fill those shoes. So thank you, and like Keita said, just good luck to you in retirement. Thank you.
And I can barely see you, Doug, but in my 2 years on the board, we haven't spent much time together, so I want to say that's probably a really good thing. So thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. We really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy your retirement.
Yeah, I don't have much to add other than, best of luck in your retirement. Enjoy it. Well earned. It is, like Tara mentioned, your advice is amazing, but it's also great when you're not showing up at board meetings for other reasons.
I haven't had a chance to get to know you, Doug, but I know the decisions and the support and the work that you did supported the district, especially during the times that I was an employee here, and we were traversing different things at different times. But I would say, as someone who retired a couple of years ago, enjoy retirement. It's an amazing place to be and well-deserved, and I hope you get to fill all those things off of your bucket list and explore all that to your heart's content.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
I just want to say before you get a sec, I know you're working your way to the microphone.
It's an open mic.
No, again, like a lot that's been echoed here, Doug, I've known you for 20 years now, and in addition to being just an incredible attorney that's been well respected in this district, throughout this community, both in the educational space and other, president of the Missouri Bar, you've never wavered in the sound advice you've given. You haven't told us always what we want to hear. You told us what's legal. And if we've asked what you thought was right, because we did that, because we just respect you as a human being, you always gave us that. And again, from the reputation of the school system, you've been on the side of lawsuits where we've benefited financially in terms of some things with DESE in recent history. We can't thank, in your history of this district, when Kathy Vesperini left a few years ago, that we felt that void, and just all of those years that she had as being our one and only communication person, having been here, a graduate of the high school, and you are, and somebody that's been here for 36 years, while you're not walking, 37 years, my bad. I'm the one who gave Alan that number. But again, we're just grateful for you and how you've cared so well for us, how you've centered children, and you've seen it in decisions and advice he's given. And I will tell you, behind the scenes too, he cares for every single child, wanting every single child to have the kind of education and the educational environment that they deserve. And so, look forward to continuing our relationship. And thank you for all you've done. So.
I just want to add one thing, and that's that I hope as you head into retirement, you're making a really good treasure map for all the things that you one day will leave behind.
That is really good.
I don't think I can make that good of a treasure map. Yeah.
You never know. You got time to work on it.
Classic.
The last thing, Doug, is, as everyone has said, thank you for your service. It is nowhere near enough, but we have a small token from the board that we'd like to present you on behalf of all your work and time with us.
Well, since you can't stop me, and I don't know whether this is on or not, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve my alma mater for so many years. It's been fun. I've gotten to know a lot of really neat people. John, you're my sixth superintendent that I've worked with. I tried to tell you what it was going to be like, and you went ahead and did it anyway. But I want to express my appreciation to your board members. I've seen it. I see what you put into this. I see the trials and tribulations that you're subjected to along the way, being in the middle of cultural issues and political issues. And I know it's not an easy job, but I really appreciate your willingness to step up and do this. It doesn't pay a lot, but no, it doesn't pay anything at all other than the satisfaction of contributing to an educational system and the kids that we serve. So can't thank you enough. And as administrators, I don't know if superintendents are emotionally balanced enough to believe that they can actually do everything they need to do. Why would you take this job? But thanks to all of them and the rest of the administrators, you guys put a huge amount of effort into it. I see it. You know, we're talking at 7 o'clock at night sometimes, and on the weekends, and it never stops. So I've seen it from this perspective, and really appreciate that. So thank you for the opportunity. It's been great. Sorry I didn't get to know this board as well as some of the previous boards that I got to know, but you guys do a great job, and keep up the good work, and I'll always be a Webster alum. So I've got my 50th reunion this fall, so I'm pretty stoked about everything. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. Next, we have Miss Sherry Myers, who is also attending her last school board meeting. Sherry is Dr. Simpson's assistant. She is also secretary to the board. She is the one that keeps us all organized and in line and registered for things and keeps us on track. So Sherry, you have been incredibly valuable. You have been so thoughtful and kind and helpful that, you know, as a board, we couldn't be half the board members we were without your support. So thank you for all your time and energy and effort you have put in. I hope you enjoy your retirement as well. We will miss you incredibly, but we hope you enjoy what's next. I will turn it over to my colleagues.
I'll just start by saying I really hope the next person can keep us in line as well as you do. And not get frustrated by all the times that I forget to respond to emails. We really do appreciate all you've done, Sherry. You've been so good to work with, and I'm so appreciative of all the things you do for us. I think we don't even realize all the things you do for us. So, so appreciative, from the good meals to making sure we do our personal financial disclosures. You will be missed, but you have well earned your retirement, so I hope that you enjoy it. And you too can make a treasure map.
Sherry, thank you so much. I think, you know, just the ways that you send emails and you keep us, you know, informed, and you care for us. I just really appreciate it. And I am going to cry because I'm going to think about the time I was able to help your grandma to watch your daughter graduate. And just thank you for everything you've given to the district.
So I don't have anything quite that emotional for you, but I can tell by your shirt you're ready to retire. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything. As a new board member, you have just been such a huge help, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me and for the rest of us, and I hope you have a fantastic time in retirement.
If I could deny it, I would. However, since I can't, just 6 hours ago, you reminded me to just put in my dinner. So I won't eat without you, Sherry. I don't know what's going to happen. Thank you. Thank you for absolutely everything and for keeping us in line. Please enjoy your next steps on your journey. Keep in touch, by all means. And yeah, Jennifer, you got a lot you got big shoes to fill, but I'm sure you can.
Sherry, I feel like you're really going out on top, leaving us with a dinner tonight. I appreciate that a lot. Seriously though, all the cakes, the celebrations, like all the things, you're always like right on top of it, to reminding me multiple times about Missouri Ethics Commission, delegate assemblies, spring conference, fall conference, all the conferences, MSBA awards, all of which Alan seemed to receive, and Grace tonight.
Work harder.
But no, just you truly do just, I don't ever have to wonder. I mean, I think you are so helpful in a role that is it takes a lot to do, but it's not my primary focus all the time because of work and family and other things, and you make it easy to stay top of mind. So you made it easy. Thank you so much, and all the best in retirement.
I think it's been really such an honor for me to be able to have seen you when I was a baby principal, and how kind and patient and helpful you were as I navigated the newness of this district, and all the interesting nuances of being an administrator here. To then, I will never forget I waited to the last day to file, and I came in and I looked at you and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And you were like, why are you doing it? I said, I don't know. And so just that exchange too, I appreciate all of your emails, even though I ignored a lot of them because I didn't think they applied to me until I realized I legally had to do some of those things. And really, I need to give you this pin because it's because of you that I got how many 18 hours that we do? Yeah, 18 hours done because of your persistence in just being so kind and I would have not had the patience. But most of all, I just hope you enjoy all the days. Life is short, and I hope you get to live into all the moments with your friends and your family and do the things that make you happy, and explore all those things that you never had time to do before, and just well earned.
All right. Do you want to say anything, Dr. Simpson?
Yeah, and I'll keep mine brief because I've talked to Sherry and, having other opportunities, but I just want to echo what everybody said. You've been an incredible in your role, your skill set. There's so much that others don't see in terms of a lot of people who reach out to me. There's a lot of emotion, or they reach out to the district, and Sherry's the first person that a lot of those people often talk to and always approaches them in a very caring way. And supports them with getting the support they need while also being mindful of, who's the best person on the other side to handle that. And it can't be taught. She's got it. And it's been invaluable, especially as we navigated some of the very challenging things that we've navigated. And the last thing I'll say, Sherry, or I'll say two more things. One, that just we've been together now for 15 years, and I left every day at work for a lot of reasons, and Sherry and I look at each other and laugh every single day. And that does so much, as all of you know, when you're in tough work environments, to be able to laugh and to be real. And with Sherry, I've always been able to be 100% just who I was and myself, and I can't be that in most places in Webster Grove School District or anywhere really, but I can with her. And I have also seen Sherry is just an incredible person. I've never seen a better daughter, mom, or granddaughter in my entire life. How she has cared for all those different people in her life. I'm so happy that you can focus on yourself and your family and your loved ones, and you deserve all the good that comes your way. So thank you for everything.
All right, Sherry, on behalf of the board, again, not enough, but a small token of our thanks. All right, finally, we have our CFO, COO, Ms. Pam Frazier, and I've started every other one. Why don't someone, I'll go last this time. Go, Joe.
I just want to thank you, Pam, so much for always being the voice of reason and always being patient and kind. I am not in any way a math person, and so I appreciate that you always take the time to really explain things and bring them down to our level and never get frustrated with stupid questions or things we don't understand. And I know you have been working towards this for a long time. We're happy that we got you for as long as we did. So I wish you all the best. I know you've got some California time with grandbabies ahead of you. So I'm so happy for you, but sad for us. So anyway, thank you for all your service. We really appreciate you.
Pam, thank you. I still remember Bruce just being so proud and happy and excited that he found you and sharing your information with us. It just meant that we knew we could trust you from the start, and I appreciated getting to know you personally as well. I don't know if my husband's tennis shoes are still in your trunk. Okay, good. I got this weird text the other day. But I just thank you for everything that you've been able to pour into our district, and your just easy ability to connect with us and to share information in ways that we understand, and to keep track of it all. And just such, it looks effortless, I can say. So I appreciate you very much, and good luck, and just have so much fun in retirement. Thank you.
I don't think there are enough thanks in the world for everything you've done for this district. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to work with you these past 2 years and serve as a liaison to on the Finance Advisory Committee with you. And then I also want to thank you for everything that you've done for me personally, because school district finance is a unique thing. And it's nothing like corporate finance at all. And so you've just been such an excellent teacher for me, and helping me understand, something that's such a big responsibility as a board member. So I want to thank you for everything. And it's been, like Christine said, it's been great getting to know you. And I really hope that retirement is everything that you want it to be.
I will again ditto. But like Joe said, I thank you, Pam, for even making this halfway understandable in the way that you explain things, and the way that you present things to us and to the district. Thank you for all of your hard work. I certainly don't know how you do it with all those little tiny numbers and things, but thank goodness for you. And thank you for all you've done for us and the district. Please, 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 I know I don't have to say this, but please enjoy your retirement. And I will miss another opportunity to possibly sing karaoke with you, but I'll just...
Yeah, so it's funny, I wrote, the first thing I wrote down was Bruce. I remember Bruce's excitement and just the praise that he gave you before we had ever met you, and I too felt so at ease from that. And I don't think he even did enough, because you have been amazing at your role in the within the school district, and I agree, like, you make it, with all the things you have to do, you just make it look a lot easier than it actually. There's no way it can be as easy as you make it look, especially when you come to meetings. You're so stoic, and I'm sure, the amount of negotiations that you have to end up doing in your role, whether it's with our city, whether you thought you left dealing with unions behind, and then here you go for your parting gift from us is dealing with a union again. And I know that I'm saying that is lighthearted as I can, because it's a very difficult negotiation, and again, you just did such a great job at dealing with all the things that were thrown at you, and you constantly have. And then finally, the things that I think about, you've made such a lasting impact on the district in terms of helping with Prop S, helping with Moss Field, helping with the baseball field, all the things. The new theater, why am I blanking on the name? Frick Theater. So I think, you can always just drive around Webster and say, oh yeah, I help with that. It's amazing. So all the best.
So I think, I ditto all those pieces, but I think for me, when I was thinking about, what do we say? I was so excited when you interviewed that I Googled you. And there are people that we have in common, other women in your role. And I think I do want to put into this space that being a female in a leadership role at this level is brutal, because you just don't have the allies that you expect that you would have, but then to also be in a leadership role that's typically not where women lead. There's another layer to that. So when I Googled you and then I started talking to other people in different districts who had worked with you and followed the trajectory of your career, I was so inspired just by your career path and how you grew into the space that you were here. And then to be able to have a little bit of time to work with you and watch. You really brought so much order to some chaos and some things that had been driving me crazy around facilities, and just to watch you start to just come in and do the work. And so all the things that Alex just noted about our facilities, I absolutely credit to you. The windows that are being changed at Hickson, 100%. But I think a really dear friend of mine always used to say, take care of this place, take care of each other, and leave it better than you found it. And you certainly are leaving this place better than you found it. But above all, I think all the work stuff is very important and admirable, but you're just such an inspiration to other women in leadership to be able to see how you weather unrelenting critique and what do we call it? Suggestions on helping you do your job. But you do it with such grace and such kindness that I think, just really proud to be able to have worked with you professionally. Welcome to the club. And I look forward to watching your leadership in other capacities in the region. So thank you.
All right, so as ditto to what everyone said, as I was thinking about what I could say tonight, I started thinking back to the first time I had seen your name or started thinking I was on the Finance Advisory Committee. I think I was chair at the time. We were interviewing for Bruce's replacement, and we got the resumes of the finalists that I was going in to sit in on the interviews on. And I look at all the resumes. I'm like, okay, yeah, this person's sort of interesting. This person's interesting. Well, this person's a CFO, COO already in a district, been there for a while, doing a great job. Oh, she's president of the state association. She's well respected across the state and the region. Wow, why does she want to come to Webster? So to have the opportunity to interact with you at this level, we're so fortunate that you chose to interview to come here, that you chose Webster Groves, because it was no choice for us, right? When a Pam Fraser's resume comes across your desk, you take it, right? It's pretty obvious. So we're so thankful that you chose us to be able to sit here as a board member. The ease of mind that it gives all of us to know that one of the biggest responsibilities we have is a huge budget that we are technically responsible for, but it's you, right? It is your expertise and your knowledge that keeps us on the straight and narrow. We can give you ideas, we can tinker around the margins, we can come up with harebrained ideas that you tell us we can't afford. We can do all of those things, right? But we couldn't do the things that we need to do to serve the kids that we need to serve without you. So I'm going to miss tremendously that part about our interactions. I'm also going to miss some of those personal interactions and getting to know you at conferences and interact with you on a more personal level. But I'm so thankful, as I said, that when a Pam Fraser walks into your life, you be thankful for it, treasure the time. So we're going to miss you tremendously, and we have a small token for you as well.
Let me say a few words first. Can I say a few? Or you can do it.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, too, I think the common theme tonight is just really good human beings, and Doug and Sherry and Pam, just really good human beings. And Grace, I think you really hit it with some of the things that Pam has had to face her whole career and dealing with. And, again, the people that she doesn't look like when she's pushing up against contractors or companies that are looking to argue. And you do handle all those situations so gracefully. You're brilliant, and you handle those really just gracefully. And I just admire you for it. And again, I drive around Kirkwood and I see apartments all the time, all these buildings going up. And so navigating our budget and our circumstances is really challenging for everyone who's ever done it. And you've done such an exceptional job with your team, with my colleagues in the room, our colleagues in this room, to do that. And it's really hard. And I think too, Pam, one thing that's always struck me about Pam when she's been here, she loves the school district. She loves Webster Grove. She loves this Board of Education. She centers kids all the time. She talks about it all the time. She talks about how generous people are within this community. She loves it. It's evident in she and Craig going to sporting events with kids, being present at different foundation events. And so my hope for you, Pam, just hoping retirement is all that you hope it would be, and hope that you also come back, and I have a feeling you will, given your love of sports, come back to watch some of the things in the venues that are here because of you. So thank you.
I'm going to try to say a couple things. First, I've been coming to board meetings for a little over 20 years, most of the time on a Thursday night, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do on Thursday nights after this. I'm sure I'll find something. But it has been a great experience. The board, thank you for your support. It's been a great district. John's great to work with. All of the people I work with are wonderful. The community, I was going to try not to cry, but I've never worked where there's a community that's so supportive as well. So thank you all.
All right. After that fun part of the event, now Pam, the next third of the agenda is yours as our real going away present. But seriously, first up, the final budget adjustment.
All right, so our final budget adjustment of the year, I have to say this is probably the simplest budget adjustment I've ever done at the end of the year. We just did that one just about a month ago, so we took care of a lot of things there. So really, there's no change in total on revenue or the expenditure side in this adjustment. The only thing we want to bring to your attention is that we did move $500,000 of M&M surtax from the general fund to the capital projects fund, and that was done just due to all of the capital projects we've been spending money on. And if you remember, we asked you to approve an additional $500,000 a couple months ago for some needs in the facilities department. So this will help cover those, get those funds into the capital projects fund to cover that. So that final budget adjustment showing our budget to be at 53.20% is what our ending fund balance is going to be. As you know, our history has been, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, we try to budget, you budget conservatively, but you don't want to budget too conservatively. You try to hit that as close as you can to that mark. You never want to be too conservative where you're depriving today's students of something that they may need. But we know usually our revenue comes in a little bit higher than projected and expenditures a little bit lower, thanks to all of our wonderful budget managers in the district. So we are expecting revenue to be approximately 2% over budget and expenditures to come in about 1% under budget. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Pam? Nope. Then I would accept a motion to approve the FY24 final budget adjustment as presented and any future adjustments that may need to be made to close out the year.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Abstentions? All right, that passes. Thank you, Pam. You are still up for Capital Projects Fund.
Yes, so each year we make a transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund. DESE determines that rate at the end of the year, how much we can transfer. That will cover things like mainly the Frick Theater expenditures for this year. And in order to do that, the state statute says that the board will pass a resolution authorizing that transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund. It also has a little bit extra, and if we do that full amount, the 1.7 million, it's going to build a balance for future needs as well. I think that's really important that the district, now that we have Frick Theater pretty much done, we'll have a little bit of that still to pay for next year, but we also start building a little bit of a balance in that capital projects fund for any emergencies that may arise. I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions for Pam? All right, if not, I will accept a motion to approve the transfer resolution.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? All right, that carries. Now on to the budget adoption.
Okay. Each year, as you know, we need to approve a budget by July 1st. If a district for some reason would not have a new budget to approve, the existing budget would carry forward. But we have a new budget for you to review and approve tonight. The budget does support the strategic plan by providing the resources to promote a learning environment that is challenging and supportive of all students. Of course, we want to ensure strong fiscal and operational management. We want to maintain our class sizes, incorporate our goal of all of our groups being their salary levels being 5% over the St. Louis County median, and we want to maintain a competitive employee benefit package. So let's start looking at the revenue. So this will be a non-reassessment year. So we're not expecting a lot of additional tax revenue. It's about $300,000. At this time of the year, we don't have any numbers from St. Louis County telling us what our assessed value is going to be. So we look at our historical trends and project out what we think that's going to be next year for the residential value, the commercial value, and the personal property values. We're using the collection rate of 98%, and of course then we may need to adjust the budget after we do receive those assessed valuation numbers from the county, and then you approve the tax rate in the fall. And there is just showing our assessed valuation history. As you can see, it's been increasing every other year on that reassessment cycle. We've gone from $750 million now to about $1.2 billion in assessment in a fairly short time. Interest earnings. Interest has been a big one for the district too the last couple of years with those rates being higher. We did increase our bond interest $300,000 over this current year budget. And we reduced in this year, we had that $2.5 million in premium from the bond sale. So we're of course taking that out for next year because we're not anticipating selling any bonds next year. Local food service, we're increasing that by $80,000. So that's the amount that families pay for lunches or a la carte items. And then Adventure Club and preschools being increased by $350,000 to what we're projecting their revenue will be next year for their enrollment. Prop C sales tax. That number went up quite a bit in the state. They pay us per our weighted ADA from the previous year. It's going up to $1,500. Desi said it could be as high as $1,513. That's an increase of $499,000 to our budget, which we are very thankful for that. We believe a large part of that large increase is due to the fact that enrollment has decreased throughout the state, so they have more that they can give to districts per pupil. The state funding formula, so starting next year, we can no longer use that pandemic provision where we were using the pre-COVID ADA numbers in that calculation. Then on top of that, the state has increased the state adequacy target will increase from $6,375 to $6,760. There's another factor in there called the dollar value modifier. It's going down just a little bit, but once we factor all those items in, we're going to see a decrease of just over $811,000, which is much better. We were originally thinking it was going to be $2 million, but because of the fact that that SAT increased, we're looking at $800,000 instead. So good news for the district. ESSER revenue, we reduced it to $70,000. All of our ESSER funds have to be spent by September 30th. We are spending the majority of that in this year, so there'll just be a little bit that has to be spent next year. Title I, that allocation was decreased, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later this evening. So we decreased that to match our allocation from DESE. And then Title II, Title IV, and E-rate have also been decreased to either match the allocation on the title funds and then to what we expect on the E-rate grants for next year. Then I'm going to let Emily Vaughn, our Director of Business Services, talk about our expenditures.
So overall, our salaries, we did meet the goal. The district did meet the goal of being 5% over the St. Louis County median. We did reduce 6.5 full-time equivalents throughout the district due to the decrease in enrollment. And this provided us with a total overall cost of $1.3 million or 3.1% over last year. And then our benefits did increase. Ms. Frazier will go into this a little later, but our benefits have increased 9.7% year over year for $1.2 million. That's mainly due to the medical insurance, which had a 12% increase. Our purchase services accounts, we removed ESSER expenditures, and our telephone budget did decrease significantly due to a communications audit. So, however, that was offset by property and liability insurance increasing by 19%. Our supply accounts decreased overall by $150,000. That removed $400,000 of carryover, and the reduction in ESSER 3 expenditures. Electric and natural gas increased about $175,000 overall. And then our capital outlay, we decreased our bond expenditure $7.8 million. As we wrap up Mossfield, that's mainly what's driving that. And then the completion of Frick Theater also reduced it $4 million as well. There are still various projects going on throughout the district. It's just those are our largest projects currently going on. Overall, it's a $12 million deficit in our overall budget. The majority of that is due to the fact that we just sold those bonds last month and received those funds in this fiscal year. Once you remove the bonds and for the W, we have a slight deficit of $1.1 million. Please note that over 80% of our expenditures next year are still remain to be salary and benefits despite all of that. And then our debt service fund has a slight surplus of $550,000. And overall, our fund balance is still projected to go down that $1.7 million. And then overall, that percentage goes down to about 49%.
So some items that the district is here to say that we'll be looking at in the future, but the district will be looking at in the future. Update that tax revenue as we discuss after we receive our assessed valuation numbers from the county and the tax rate is approved. Need to monitor those bond and construction projects and adjust if necessary. ESSER funds may need to be adjusted. It may not be quite $70,000, so that will need to be looked at. Then, of course, there's those normal adjustments through the course of the year. Another thing will be to look at Senate Bill 727. There are a lot of things in there that could affect the district. Next year, a couple things. We're able to claim already next year a little bit more in pre-K ADA. Right now, we can only claim 4% of the district's total free and reduced number. Next year, that's going up to 8%. The caveat with that, though, is DESE just released a memo stating they're going to have to ask for an additional appropriation, they believe, from the state to be able to pay for that. So they're telling us to claim those students, but they're not sure yet if it will be funded or not. In the future, too, they'll be looking at the bill states right now the formula is based on our weighted average daily attendance, which, as we've talked about, average daily attendance, if you're here 97% of the time, it's a 0.97. So they're looking at changing that, and then 2 years from now, it'll start being implemented. Well, where 10% of that, instead of the whole 100% being ADA, 10% will be based on a weighted membership. And membership comes from the count day, and that's students that are in attendance 10 days around that count day. The thought behind that is it's costing districts to pay teachers, to provide for students, whether their attendance is 100% or their attendance is 70%. So they're leaning towards phasing that in, where you're getting some of the funding based on your enrollment, basically, instead of just attendance. Because our attendance is decreasing, that's probably not going to help the district for several years. But it just depends what happens with the district's enrollment. So that will need to be monitored as well. And then I want to talk about the projections. So fiscal year 26, when we look at that year, we increased taxes by 3%. That will be a reassessment year. We reduced interest revenue by about half, about $900,000, because we're assuming those interest rates are going to start going down. State formula is going to be increased because the SAT in the formula is going to go up in fiscal year 26. So it's going to be increased by $1.3 million, and we removed all of the ESSER funds. On the expenditure side, salaries, we just increased them by 2.1 because that actual amount will be determined through the negotiation process. Health insurance, we put in a 10% increase, gas and electric a 5% increase, and then remove the Frick Theater expenditures.
Pam, can I ask a quick clarifying question on that one? Is actually here too. It says taxes increased by 3% or 0.5%. You're not talking about tax rate. You're talking about
Total
the revenue you expect from taxes, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So in fiscal year 27, we're looking at that'll be a non-reassessment year, so about a 0.5% increase in revenue. State formula that year is going to decrease unless the state does something with that state adequacy target. We're expecting a decrease of $600,000. Salaries, again, just a 2.1% increase because they will be, that'll be determined through the negotiation process. Health insurance, we stuck with a 10% again. But I also wanted, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, I'm assuming a $750,000 reduction in next year's budget as we did, or excuse me, in the fiscal year 26 budget as we did for this upcoming year. Then we increased gas and electric by 5%. So when we look at these, or just the green down here shows the total. So this is the 1.478, which is $300,000 more than what Emily just discussed, because these numbers have the for the W revenue and expenditures in there. We're expecting to spend $300,000 more next year on for the W than we'll be getting in donations, because some of the agreements we've opted to let some of the donors pay over time. They're making a large donation they could pay in 3 years. So that next year, in fiscal year 26 here, we have a deficit of $734,000. That is after $750,000 is reduced in the budget. But then for fiscal year 27, to have that $750,000 have an effect, Emily and I discussed it. We decided we're going to just use salaries, health insurance, and other benefits. Those are areas that could be reduced, so we reduced them. So when you see here, this isn't a 2.1% increase on salaries. That's because it's got the reflection of the $750,000 from the year before that's on the bottom here in there. Hopefully that makes sense. Because there are a couple things too. Insurance could be decreased if the district looks at a different plan, for instance. So it might not just be a reduction in employees, that could be other things as well. But of course the district could also decide to reduce supply budgets and things like that. But just to pick a place so it's reflected on there, that's where we put that. And that year's expected to have about a $2.9 million deficit. But I also just wanted to talk about the history of our budget. So when we adopt the budget, just like we're doing this evening, as I mentioned, our largest revenue stream is tax revenue. And we don't have any information from the county yet. So there's some years, quite a lot could change. There was a year a couple of years ago in fiscal year 23. We got the numbers and the assessed value of personal property went up drastically. So of course that changes our revenue. When we're building the budget in May, we don't know that that's going to happen because we don't have those numbers. So just to take a look at this shows in fiscal year 21, we had revenue on the budget adopted like tonight of the $62.6 million. The actual at the end of the year was $61.8 million. So that came in at 98.68% of that budget. And as you know, there are also budget amendments through the year, but they're not reflected on here. This is the budget at the very beginning of the year. And then expenditures were 62.5 million, ended up at 58 million. So that one came in at just about 93%. But if you remember, that was 2021. We didn't have school the first few months of that year, so a lot of our expenditures were down. We had a lot of vacant positions, so our expenditures ended up being lower than we originally put in the budget. Fiscal year 22, the revenue was 63.5 adopted, ended up being 62.3. Expenditures 62.9 ended up being 59.6. So that year too, we did still have a lot of vacant positions. We were also working to try to close that gap a little bit to make the budget a little bit tighter the last few years. I have to say kudos to Emily. She works really hard on the expenditure side to get the salary and benefits just as close to what we're really going to need as it should be. And then in fiscal year 23, the adopted budget showed revenue of 62.9. The final was 66, almost 67 million. That is the year that personal property, personal property came in high, interest came in high. Food service, normally we get a couple months payment in June for our food service payment. That year they decided to give it to us in the next year, so it came in fiscal year 23. There were just a lot of things that made that revenue come in higher. And then expenditures actually came in a tad bit higher than was originally adopted. Of course, we had budget amendments through the year, so we can never end a year with a budget that's in a deficit, so we had budget adjustments through the year that brought that in line. But just kind of showing you, we have a history of revenue coming in a little bit higher. For a couple of years it was a little bit lower, but that was because there were some unknowns as we did the budget. When you look at the budget that was at the end of the year, the revenue was always higher. And then it's the expenditures that really kind of drive that. We have good budget managers that don't spend money just to spend it. We also allow our buildings to do carryover of funds, so some of them will save money for large projects they want to do. So our expenditures generally come in under budget. So we are happy to answer any questions or take any comments you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Frazier or Ms. Vaughn about the budget? Joe?
I just have one question that I'm curious about. Do we know why our liability and property insurance went up so much?
Yeah, we, just a couple weeks ago, I attended a webinar that our insurance company had of all the claims they've had. More claims than they've ever had in the history of the insurance pool, which is driving that number.
I have one question for you. Pam, there was an increase in revenue from the preschool. I was just wondering if that was due to an increase in enrollment, or was there a tuition increase for next year, or what's driving that increase?
Yeah, it's based on enrollment, no tuition increases.
That's good news. Okay. If there are no other questions for Ms. Frazier, I'd entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? All right, that has passed. On to health insurance.
Okay. So as you know, there's over 20 school districts that belong to the CSD Insurance Trust Pool. It's a self-insured pool. Medical and dental premiums are based on our actual claims experience, though. In some cases, when a district belongs to a pool, they pool all of the claims experience, but that doesn't happen in this case. It's based on our individual claims, which is good. That's usually beneficial for the district. The trust looks at the average of the most recent 3 years of our loss ratio, which is the amount we're spending over the premiums that are coming in. We have had more claims going out than premiums coming in, so that was the reason for that 12% increase. We are in the highest tier. The trust has 3 different tiers. If you're in the lowest tier, you have less claims coming in than your premiums to pay for them. If you're in tier 5, the highest tier, you're like us where you have more claims coming in than premiums, which we're in tier 5. That increase for next year is going to be 12%. The increase for all tiers combined, the average increase for the trust is 10.2. So there are really no low increases. It's just if you have, if you're in that first tier, you are going to see a lower increase, of course. So the district to pay for the increase is $106 per employee per month. We're proposing that the district take all of that increase, not share it with the employees. I sent out a survey to area districts to ask them, as this was a topic of the Finance Committee, and very rightly so, because we spend a lot of money on insurance benefits every year. So I sent a survey out to other districts asking them, do you have employees pay a portion of the health insurance? 27 districts responded. Only 3 pass on a part of that premium to the employee, which is how we ended up with a recommendation to not add to the premium that our employees are already paying, but to keep it at the same rate. So doing that, right now we're at, the district pays 93.05%, the employees pay 6.95%. So next year that would change that just slightly to 93.8% for the district and 6.2% for the employees. We also have some other plans we offer. We have a kids plan that's going to see a 6% increase. And then we have a dental insurance plan that's also board paid. It's going up by 1.1% or 36 cents per employee per month. And then a vision plan too, but that's paid by our employees and it's going up 2.2%. And I'm happy again to answer any questions you may have.
Pam, when you said those 3 districts pass on that cost to their employees, do they pass on the total 100% of the cost or just some portion of that cost?
No, just a small portion of it.
With the increase, I mean, and just having this right after the budget discussion, I mean, I don't think you anticipate or anyone anticipates that health insurance is going to stop going up by double digits over the next double-digit percentages. So, do you foresee us needing to eventually start passing on some of that cost, especially as our budget deficit starts to lurk?
Wondering a little bit more what's entering my mind, and I have talked to Jacob, who's going to be taking my place, just to share my thoughts with that, with him too. Emily and I both wondered if maybe it's a change in plan that needs to happen. We have a pretty rich plan. Some of the other districts that we noted, like Ladue was one that kind of stood out for me. Like they don't charge anything, don't pass anything on to their employees, but they don't have near as rich of a plan that we do. So maybe it's something like that where we have, a deductible plan. We have a corridor right now what the district pays for. So your first $1,000, and that doesn't include your copays and things like that, but your first $1,000 of tests that you have is covered by the trust. Then the next $2,000 acts kind of like a deductible, and you pay that, and then after that, then the trust kicks in again. Maybe we need to switch that up, or it is more of a deductible plan, so that'll be a discussion for next year. And I would say too, the trust as a whole is also looking at that, switching from this corridor plan to just a deductible plan instead.
Thanks.
Question for me. So we just offer the one plan, right? We don't have a range of plans. Is that right?
We do have some other plans. You can do an HSA. Okay. Or you can buy up to a little bit richer plan, so you don't pay out of pocket.
Yeah, because one thing that we just went through this at my employer as well, right? Costs kept going up. We ended up switching plans, and the organization kept the payment of the whatever percentage of what would be that plan, but it also gave employees options of choosing some cheaper plans or some smaller or some richer plans, as you called them. So that money might go further in those plans versus just that one that we kept that was most similar to our plan last year. So the other thing that sort of comes to mind is when thinking about new employees as they come on, they're coming on at the same percentages as old employees, right? So, right, the rates were what they were at one point 5 years ago or whatever, and we've just absorbed the increases up until now, but because the percentage was what it was back then, but it's grown. The new employees that come on are coming on at that new bigger percentage, not the original percentage, right?
Right, they're coming on at the percentage that we're
93
listed
or
here.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my questions. Any other questions for Pam? Okay, and I don't think we need a motion on that one. Lunch prices.
Okay, and as you know, Chartwell's provides our food service program. They do a wonderful job. This just shows a couple activities. They have a food truck. The food truck came to Edgar Road this year. And then they had a Bristol kind of tasting event, Discovery Kitchen event in the fall, which was a lot of fun. So some upcoming challenges, as we know, food costs have been increasing, repairing old equipment, and we are projecting a budget deficit next year of about $150,000. They too, like the rest of the budget, sometimes has trouble filling positions, so sometimes those positions are vacant, and we save a little bit money there, so we'll have to see if that happens again. Hopefully it won't. It has been a little bit better. If you remember, we brought to you a special, at a special time, not our normal raise time, to give them an increase in pay, and that has helped. They've not had quite as many vacancies as they did in the past. So we are recommending that we raise the lunch prices by 10 cents. DESE has a tool that we use to calculate what those lunch prices would be. We actually had a food service review from DESE this year, and she commented that she felt like our lunch prices were low. So the tool is suggesting that we do at least a 10-cent increase. So currently the elementary breakfast is $1.85. It would go to $1.95. Lunch is $2.90. It would go to $3. Secondary breakfast $1.90, go to $2. Lunch $2.95 would go to $3.05. And then the tier lunches, which is a little bit of an additional lunch, another option, will go from $3.60 to $3.70. And just to share with you, some of the other districts have not, just like us, they're just now deciding what their lunch price is going to be next year. So Clayton, currently they're at $2.15 for breakfast. Lunch is $3.30 for an elementary. Secondary lunch is $3.55. Brentwood for next year is $2.91 for breakfast. Elementary lunch $3.70. Secondary lunch $3.90. Oh, I forgot Afton. Afton this year is $2. Elementary lunch is $3. Secondary lunch is $3.10. So we're really close to them. Be a little bit higher. Kirkwood for this year, breakfast is $2.50. Elementary lunch $3.35. Secondary $3.50. And then Lindbergh's, I'm not going to read those to you. You can see them. They're a little bit higher yet on their lunches. So happy to answer any questions you may have about that.
Any questions?
I have a question. Is there anything, obviously some families can qualify for free and reduced lunch. What about those families who might not meet that threshold but still have difficulty paying for lunch? Is there anything that we do as a district or any resources available for those families?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really a tough one that we struggle with a lot. The foundation does have on their website, you can donate if you want to donate to help families. We have had, as we talked about earlier, this generous, maybe I could talk about it now without crying, this very generous community. We have people that'll come and periodically will write us a check to help pay for some of those lunch balances, which is just incredible that we have people that think about doing that, but it's not enough. We ended the year with negative lunch balances of right about $20,000 across the district. That's for all grades. So it is an issue. As you know, when a student goes through the line, we don't, it used to be a long time ago, you'd give them a different lunch or something like that. We don't do that. We don't want to do that to a child. If they need a lunch, we're going to give them a lunch. So it's something, we've had a lot of conversations about that this year, and wishing maybe that the federal government would go back to the free lunches, but
Yeah.
I haven't heard of any talk about that happening.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Frazier? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve increasing meal prices by 10 cents. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any any abstentions? Okay, that carries 6-1. Getting closer to the end for you, Pam. Naming rights at Moss Field.
This one is a little more exciting. Again, the generosity of our community is astounding. So as you know, the foundation, when they set up their For the W campaign, had some opportunities for some naming rights, for individual naming rights. We have to watch businesses, since we paid for the project with tax exempt bonds. It can be individuals and not a business that's going to profit from advertisement on one of our buildings. The exception to that would be if we would do something with the scoreboard, because the foundation's paying for all of the scoreboard. So we're going to start off with the Peacock family. Maybe. And just to show you here, they have very generously donated $300,000. They're going to be paying that over 3 years. They did not want the press box to just say the Peacock family press box. They really wanted to recognize the statesmen in the school district. So Home of the Statesmen Peacock Family Press Box is what that one will say. And we'll go down to Adrian Claiborne, also another very generous donor, is donating $100,000 for the naming rights on the locker room. So that'll be the Adrian Claiborne Athletic Center. Another outstanding donation. Then the last one is on the concession stand. See if I can make this one a little bit bigger so you can see it better. So the Johnson family. So the Johnson family has had several generations graduate from the high school. So they've chosen to do the Johnson family concession stand. And then they have the years of the graduates under there, which is just really pretty exciting to look at that when you think the first one was 1918, and then this is kind of blurry, I apologize for that, I think 1958. 78, and then 82, and then the names of the family members who graduated then. And they donated $100,000 for that. Then the last one we want to talk about, so the For the W committee is recommending that the stadium be called Moss Field at Alumni Stadium. This will honor all of our graduates from all the previous years, and we've had many of them donate to the For the W capital campaign. And as John said, he wrote this part about our graduates because they have contributed to who we are today. So what a way to honor them by having this called Moss Field at Alumni Stadium. And then again, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions about the naming rights for Ms. Frazier? I get excited every time I see those pictures. And the real pictures too, but it's fantastic. All right, if there are no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the naming rights as presented. Yeah.
A legendary coach. Yeah. That's something that along the way, has been something that people wanted us to keep. Again, there's people on both sides for anybody's name, but largely that was something that people wanted to keep at this point. So we didn't change that. We didn't offer that up.
All right, if there are no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the naming rights as presented.
Make a motion to approve the naming rights as presented.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries 7-0. And Pam, your final item of the night and of your Webster career, extended bus routes for 24-25.
Okay, this is another exciting one. So we have done, there were a couple things, probably, 4 or 5 years ago, I thought I wanted to do. One was to improve transportation. So nice to know that we now can support families by giving them transportation to school. And then the other thing was Moss Field. I remember having a conversation with Jerry Collins about Moss Field. So these are probably two of the most exciting things that we're able to do. And as you know, this year we added a lot of elementary routes for the first time. So we started the year at 1.5 miles. Midway through the year, brought it down to a mile. We base that on because that's what the state, through their guidelines, funds transportation on. But when you look at this, most school districts then will take another look at that and say, okay, under a mile, are there some places that we still would like to pick up students? Maybe it is a roadway, maybe there's no crossing guard there. So that's what we took a look at those areas to determine what should be our next step. So we're looking at hazardous roadway, which is defined as a 4-lane roadway that a student must cross to travel to the elementary school in their attendance zone. And there's not a marked crosswalk, a district providing crossing guard, or an alternative path such as a bridge over the roadway. So we've got 3 of them at Avery, Givens, and Hudson. So we look here at Hudson. Theirs is just in this area right here. So this is over south of McKnight, but north of Manchester. If you get on this far side over here, those students are eligible anyway. So it's just really, and it really narrows down to just, there's an apartment building there. That's really who this will affect, that they will now be able to ride the school bus. And then when we look, whoops. Go back, I don't want to do that. When we look at Givens here, Givens just has this area south of Kirkham there, between Slocum Avenue and Claiborne Place, where they are not a mile. There are just a handful of homes in that area too. If you drive down Rock Hill Road and you go east, they're bus eligible, and the same thing if you go west or further south, they're going to be bus eligible already. So it's just affecting families right in this area. And then when we look at Avery, so that's east of North Laclede Station Road between Marshall and Big Bend, and really just to the east of that, because once again, as you go further, they're already bus eligible. So that's what we're asking, to make exceptions to what we've been doing and add these additional routes for those 3 elementary schools, for those families if they would desire to ride a bus. We're thinking no more than probably 15 students total, probably more like 6 to 8 students for all 3 elementary schools, and we do have room on all of the buses to support that.
All right, any questions for Ms. Frazier on the bus routes? The only one for me, Pam, would be, assuming that this passes, these families and stuff will be notified and determine bus stops and all that during the normal process, probably sometime in August when that goes out to families. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably sooner than that.
Sooner than that? Okay. All right. Any other questions? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the expanded bus routes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 7-0. Pam, thank you for your portion of the agenda and your service. Thank you. I'm done. All right, now to you, Dr. Simpson, for the enrollment report.
Yes, and mine will be, you've had the data kind of speaks for itself. Jason's going to advance for me. So enrollment report, every year we do, we're always looking at enrollment. We're looking at enrollment of just new kids that are coming, students that might be leaving. We also contract every year. It's been most every year. There was a period where it took a little bit longer during COVID with Dr. Charles Coffron. Dr. Coffron does projections for a number of different districts at a very reasonable price. And so he provides projections based on resident births. So he's not looking at students who participate in VIC. His data doesn't include staff that bring their children to school. It doesn't include a lot of some of those different student groups, resident births. So when we look at this, our data will be what all of our kids are, and then we'll also show some of his just resident data. This right here shows the 19 to 24 trend line in the Webster Grove School District of all students. So we were at the peak in 1920, and we've talked about this, 1920 to 2021, we saw a number of children that left, primarily elementary school age kids, primarily K to 2. And from what we've heard or have inferred is that a number of them were families that needed to have their children go somewhere when the school year started, and we were all in virtual still. So we were at 4,483, and these are all our September count. There's 2 official count dates that we submit data to the state that drives a lot of our things like funding and the such. There's a September date and there's a January date. This is our September data. So you kind of see how that data looks. And then right there, I'm sorry, the legend disappeared. That top line is our elementary school number. The middle line is our high school number, and the bottom line is our middle school number. Of course, 1920, 2021, that was combining Steger and Hickson together. You could advance, Jason. You could stop me as we go. This graph, again, looking different than when Dr. Coffron did this in 1920, shows his projected, so the red line represents actual resident enrollment in the district as of the last Wednesday in September. And all the dates to the left show the resident counts at that same time frame from 1920, or that's 1819, all the way through. So you can kind of see where that, again, where he outlines there, that drop occurred. The projections show some different possibilities with a low line going the kind of the vertical down and the high line, or the diagonal down and the high line going up. We base ours somewhere on one of the middle lines. We call it, the middle, basically. I can't remember the name of it. So you could see the line right there, and then what I did on the right there is I put, that's the actual enrollment. So you could see in 23-24, the resident enrollment in the district was 4027, and 23-24 total enrollment was 4182, okay? Staff that bring their kids, students that participate in VIC, students that come from Epworth, those students account for all and a few other different groups. Go ahead and change it. So again, some of the declines, COVID, declining VIC enrollment, you've seen that slide, I'll show it again. That's only going down as the program is being phased out. Next year will be the first time that no new students are accepted into that particular program. Students will be able to continue to participate in VIC as long as they remain a resident of the city. So if they transfer from one zone to another, they may go to a different school, but they can still continue within that program. Also, part of the decline, not recently, was Great Circle, the students in that program, ultimately that entity going away, and then declining birth rate, something we've talked about and we see everywhere, not just in the Webster Grove School District. Here's the VIC participation. I included to the right, you could see what our enrollment was in 05, 06, 10, 11, and 15, 16. This year, we're at 56 students and projected to lose, because our upper level classes have higher enrollment. But then the district made the decision a number of years ago, prior to my superintendency, to start scaling back in anticipation of the program going away, with the information and what they knew about the program and how it was funded. So we will look to if our students continue to stay with us, we'll graduate about 10 students in the next 2 years. So that number will drop, because we just had 1 kindergarten student this past year. That just shows the Great Circle enrollment from what is a recent high to, in 21 on, we haven't had any students from that school. School no longer exists. That shows you, that's the original, the graph on the left was the graph on the second or third slide. The one on the right just shows, again, that declining birth rate data. So you could see a similar pattern in our projections following along what's happening with that birth data. This I just included. This is something that I provided for you last year, just showing you what Dr. Coffron projects in terms of what the enrollment will be in kindergarten in those schools, and where, as of April 30th, I just kept it consistent with what was last year, what the current enrollment was at those particular schools. So you can see our enrollment is tracking pretty well at this point. We always get a number of people in the summer, especially in late July through mid-August. Some of our schools, like Clark, was well above their projected enrollment early on. Everybody is pretty close overall. Hudson is one of those. Ever since I was even a principal there, and I'm sure before Hudson and Givens, you'll see a number of people sign up a little bit later. Some of the action steps that we're, again, trying to do to stimulate enrollment, again, trying to do everything we can to create the best educational environment for our children. And when we do, and in ways that we do, and just improving our storytelling. And Derek has a big responsibility in that. He's done a great job, but we also see that as all of our responsibility to tell the stories in all kinds of different ways, just not in print and social media, but in all that we do. Coordinated open house event, doing that. We do that every year at the high school, but looking to do that in alternate years at our other schools. We'll do that again this coming year. Continued dedication to improving the educational experience for our kids, the implementation of our strategic plan, and trying to push the envelope in really good ways, in every good way. And then continuing to be efficient with our resources. And that's kind of, Pam's talked about that now. We've talked about that for a number of years. Our team has worked on that from the very beginning of COVID. I know, very thoughtfully. That's it. And with that, I'll take any comments or questions you have.
Any questions for Dr. Simpson? Seeing none. All right, we will move on to Dr. Adams and Dr. Wiley Skinner for the sexual abuse code of conduct update. Oh, I missed federal. I am going to have to actually break down and get readers, because this computer, it's small and far away. And I'm putting it off, but it's going to have to happen. So my apologies, federal programs update first.
No problem. So Pam already gave a slight preview in the overall budget presentation, but I want to just quickly walk through how we have used our federal program funds this year and what our recommendations are going forward for next year. When we talk about our federal title programs, we're specifically talking about Title I, Title II, and Title IV. This does not include ESSER. This does not include E-rate or any other federal programs. This specifically focuses on those three. As a reminder, some of these numbers that you'll be seeing, we share our funds. So Webster Grove School District gets a portion of the funds, and then some of our non-public institutions within the district boundaries also participate in these federal funds as well. And I'll explain that more as we go forward. First area is Title I, which really focuses in terms of overall instruction, specifically targeting areas of achievement particularly for student groups that have been identified as disadvantaged. You can see here our pattern over the last few years in terms of the funds that we as a district have received. And you'll notice that the first number, the 148,000, that is the total amount that we are getting, but then below that you'll see the anticipated amount or the share of those funds that the Webster Grove School District anticipates to receive for next year. Again, Pam already shared that there will be a decline, and you'll see that decline as we go through each of the 3 title programs. For this year and historically, we have used our Title I funds to support our overall reading specialist team and also with the hiring of instructional tutors. For Title II, this is largely professional development for building leaders, for teachers. Again, you'll see the top number is our overall allocation and then our particular share for planning purposes that we anticipate receiving.
Jason, will you just quickly talk about who gets the other share?
Yes. So the other share goes to private and parochial schools and institutions within our district boundaries. So Epworth is a beneficiary of some of these funds, and then our parochial schools within our particular area.
Jason and his department administer and manage all of that. Yep.
So if they want to make a purchase, they reach out to us, we make the purchase for them, or they make the purchase, we work out the reimbursement. But traditionally, that's the overall amount of money that we anticipate receiving for next year. In terms of how we've used the Title II funds for professional development, it has supported our equity training. It has historically, for the last few years, supported specifically reading recovery training for some of our reading specialists, and it has also been used to support math development over the last few years in terms of sending teachers to training or providing training within the district and covering the expense for the speaker. In terms of Title IV, the key area really is to think about in terms of enrichment. And so the overall idea around Title IV is how do we provide a well-rounded, as it's phrased, experience for our students. And so this can often include culture and climate work, enrichment, and some limited technology. You can see here our anticipated overall amount and then how much we anticipate receiving as a district. And in the past, our work has been to provide a Code HS program, which is provided at the high school, and it's also been used to support some of our Enrichment for All work as well. And in terms of our recommendations for this upcoming year, in terms of Title I, we have historically used it to support our reading specialists. We anticipate and hope to continue to do that again going into next year. In addition, Title II, we would like to continue to provide support in terms of the areas of equity and also instructional development in terms of different areas related to our curriculum development process. Also, we are able to offer, as part of our strategic plan this summer, Restorative Practices Academy and the Character-Based Discipline Institute that we are offering. Those are both being funded, or we hope to fund those using Title II funds. And then also continuing to support academic areas such as literacy and math. Specifically with literacy, we are not anticipating or planning to continue our partnership with Reading Recovery, but we do anticipate using those funds to partner with the School District of Clayton to develop a professional learning experience that will be beyond just our 6 reading recovery teachers, and instead support all of our reading specialists as we continue to focus on literacy and how we can support the individual needs of all of our kids. And in terms of math, you're aware we have a new math resource at the elementary level, and so a portion of these funds will also be used to hopefully support that work and that implementation. And then finally, for Title IV, we would like to continue to be able to support our computer science program with the Code HS program that I mentioned, and then also we've had ongoing conversations in our board meetings about the Thrive After School program and the Thrive program at Hickson, and we'd like to continue to use our Title IV funds to support that going forward. And what questions do you have?
I have a question. Might not be a simple answer, so if it's not, that's fine. We can figure it out later. But what factors determine our allocations of these federal funds as a district? I'm sure it's not simple.
It's not, but the simple way to look at that is socioeconomic status and census in terms of our overall community. However, there's a bit of a lag time. So if our numbers for this year are a certain number, we won't actually see that impact our funds until several years later. And so we've been anticipating that there would continue to be reductions over the last few years. And so that's part of the conversation and part of the work that my department does, along with our finance department, along with our HR department in some aspects, to make sure that if federal funds aren't necessarily available, then that means as a local district, as a local community, then we then have to support if we want to continue to use the funds in the way that we have.
Okay. And then how is our district's share of those funds determined because we have to share them with the other schools in our district?
So the high level of how that's determined, DESE, all of this goes through DESE. And so each year around this time, we are given our preliminary allocations, which is what I shared with you this evening. However, I like to say the only thing consistent about federal programs is it changes. And so this is what we anticipate receiving. If there were to be additional funds federally or even state supported that would be put into federal programs, we would get more, our non-public schools would get more, but ultimately it's divided up and allocated to us by DESE.
Okay.
Jason, is that on an enrollment standpoint? Like, how does Narings get what Narings gets?
Yeah, so there's a behind-the-scenes process where schools, our parochial schools, Epworth, they will, if they have a student who's attending their particular school who resides in the Webster Grove School District, therefore they receive a portion of our funds that are allocated to students within the overall Webster Groves community. So it's not just this particular school, you get this amount of money. It's based on the Webster Groves community students who live within our district, who reside or who attend at each of those schools.
Attend the schools within our school district, because if they attend a school outside of our school district,
That's correct.
that's not coming from those funds, right?
If they reside within our school district.
Yeah.
So there are, as part of the process, like a student could potentially attend a school who is outside of our community who resides within the Webster Grove School District, and therefore some of that money could be supportive of where they particularly go.
Oh,
if
so it
that
could
makes
go
sense.
to another school district, so to speak, but not really. Just another
It's
school outside of our school
another s-
district.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And then also I should add too, with the whole change idea, if a non-public school doesn't use all of their funds, like this particular school year, then we can benefit from those funds and we can actually use those unused funds beginning the next school year. So the amounts I showed you and typically show you around this time, they could increase. They typically wouldn't decrease, but they could increase if our non-public partners haven't used all of their funds.
Does that typically happen?
Knock on wood, yes.
Okay.
And so, but for planning purposes, we stick with what our overall allocations are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Dr. Adams? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-24 federal programs report and 2024-25 federal programs recommendations.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Abstentions? All right. Now, we can move on to the child sexual abuse code of conduct update. Dr. Adams and Dr. Wiley Skinner.
Yeah, so we are pleased to be here again tonight to share with you. We've been updating the board throughout the work of the last 2 years with a community group and then a district-wide task force. And so we are here tonight just to give you an update of where we are and what our intended goals are for the start of next school year related to the code of conduct. So our overall code of conduct is really an agreement between all of the adults within our district in terms of what are our beliefs, what are our boundaries, what are our practices in terms of preventing child sexual abuse. And so as employees of the Webster Grove School District, and I would also add volunteers, PTO members, etc., the idea is that we will all be following this code of conduct to create a space where it will be very unlikely for something to happen in terms of child sexual abuse. And so we want to very much work with our overall community to create this so that this becomes the norm and this becomes the conversation in terms of setting boundaries and our interactions with students. This year we've been, Dr. Welly Skinner and myself, we've been working with a work group this year to draft this code of conduct. It also, we've been looking at law, we've been looking at board policies, and so you'll notice in the code of conduct document that all of those particular things are referenced in the document, but it also creates some clarity and hopefully some guidance in terms of what actual application and boundaries should look like. And Dr. Welly Skinner, you want to share this part?
So just wanted to highlight this, that since COVID has ended, Missouri as a state has about 29,000 students that just have not been accounted for. They were in schools before COVID, and we don't know where they are, if they're still in state or out of state. And also what we noticed is the number of hotline calls did decline during those COVID years. And of course, the suspicion is that not that child abuse just magically went away or declined, but children were not in front of teachers or counselors, which really in a large respect, we are the ones that are seeing and noticing and making those calls and making those notifications. And so it's important for us to do this because unfortunately child abuse still occurs. And we want to make sure that we work with staff and people and in the community that know not here, right, from the beginning. And so it is our hope and our goal to take, and for people to know we take a strong stance against child abuse in any regard, knowing that before you decide to volunteer, before you decide you want to work here, this is who we are and this is why we're doing that work, because unfortunately children are still being harmed throughout not just our state, but just holistically. So in order for us to do this work, to implement this code of conduct, we have a lot of things to do. I wanted to point these things out in particular because we're going to train all staff on it, and we're going to train our substitutes on it. We're going to be very, very specific with regard to that. We're adding the code of conduct to our website as well as to our job postings. So just like we list the salary structure, we're going to list this as a part of who we are. And if you believe it, if you want to work in Webster, know that this is what we believe in before you even apply. So the hope is that if you are a person who has a history of or are thinking about, you would know from the beginning that Webster Groves really is not a school district that will consider, condone in any way any type of child sexual abuse. And then also working with our district volunteers that we fingerprint, but what other work can we do with them to make sure they know as a volunteer you are bound by these code of conduct principles as well. And so that's really our work for this year, and for the full implementation. It's a lot of training, a lot of conversation, and a lot of modifying a number of the things that we're going to do to make sure that our stance on it is very clear. So we're presenting to you, here are our steps. Our next goal is to train administrators. We have this on our agenda in the summer to get them trained, and we're going to be training all of our staff during the week of August 12th. So we have some specified time in the presentation to get before all of our staff members in August. We're going to train our substitutes. We have 2 substitute trainings scheduled so far this summer. And as we continue to hire substitutes, we will continue to afford that training to them. Notify all of our district volunteers. It's a part of their welcome back process, and we've got to get that geared up to make sure that that's a part of the process. Thinking about dropping into Raptor. When you complete the application, you're signing off that you have that. So we're thinking about the best way to get that code of conduct out there before them. And again, beginning July 1, ensuring all of our job postings that we put out there in the community will include that code of conduct so that they understand what we believe and where our stance. So Also, hiring season typically occurs in the spring, so I'm working right now in my department in order to establish some hiring packets to provide to principals so that we can think about how we want to infuse questions about this, infuse this as a part of the interview process, right? So what could that look like? We're not clear on that yet. I've not finalized those thoughts, but we do believe that we should be embedding this as a part of the interview process somewhere, right? So not only is it in the posting, but you've also been, during the process been exposed to that. And then we will gather feedback as a committee at some point. What have we heard? What have we noticed? This cohort or this committee worked really good with us as admin assistants and counselors, just to say, like, have you thought about this? So this is what it feels like for parents when they walk into the building. What could we do with regard to that? So we have a lot of feedback from them, and we're hoping to continue to gather more after we put some of these pieces in place to see what it actually is feeling like at the school level. And that's it for right now. In your board packet, you will see a copy of the code of conduct that's in there, the final draft of that. It is 3 pages, and we stand by all of those pages. We thought about condensing it and making it a little bit shorter, but every word matters. Everything that we put in there, we stand behind, but we are absolutely open to any feedback or suggestions related to that. So we will entertain any questions or comments.
I have a question. Are you going, of all the list of the rollout and all the different groups, what about, I thought about after-school enrichment and volunteers and people that come in for that, or parent, I'm trying to think, it's like classroom parents, like people that get certified through probably the Raptor testing to come in and do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, great question. So it'll be our goal for those parents, like classroom volunteers or parents, if they're going through Raptor, again, we're hoping to have that embedded in there. With regard to after school, adventure club, things like that, they're considered employees. We'll make sure they get all of that training as well through Kelly and or Amanda. So we'll process through that for that before and after care. And then anyone, again, that will be volunteering, we have a process that they have to follow. We just have to figure out where we embed it in that process. Is it a part when you are signing up for your fingerprinting and or a part of Raptor? For our coaches, we'll make sure that our coaches that have volunteers as well, it's a part of their training as well with Chris Johnson, the new AD. So we'll have that embedded in there too. But anyone planning to volunteer should go through Raptor or fingerprinting. And as long as they do those things, we'll be covering them. And again, all before and after care employees will be a part of that training as well.
Thanks.
Keita just had a good idea. Do you want to share that?
I was just wondering about school bus drivers and other like transportation people. I mean,
Yeah, good question.
is that something that we can?
The answer is yes. And so we've also had conversations with Pam and with Jason Miller about contractors who are doing construction, all kinds of folks who would have any experience, any exposure with our students. How do we ensure that they know this is what we're about, this is what this looks like? And so as we move forward with this implementation, first targeting staff, volunteers, but then also getting feedback from this group about, is there a particular group, like bus drivers, that maybe perhaps we didn't initially do, that we want to make sure that we've added in, but bus drivers and contractors are very much a part of this initial rollout.
I just wanted to add too that a big part of the work, as you all know, is of course the prevention of assault, abuse of children, but it's also just healthy boundaries. What are healthy boundaries for our adults to have with our children? Good practices for every single one of us, and so that's a big part of this, is helping to be really clear what those boundaries are, what those practices are, what are those systems for communication to keep both our children safe, most importantly, as well as our adults safe too. So.
And if I may, I just want to give a shout out to Jenny Dodson-Wheel from Missouri Kids First, who has invested a tremendous amount of time over the last few years with us to help us get to this point. And she's also giving feedback on the training that we're doing, and she continues to be a great partner for us. And so just wanted to lift her name up as well.
She's awesome.
Absolutely. Any other questions for Drs. Wiley, Skinner, or Adams? All right. We will move on to the consent agenda.
All right. I make a motion to approve consent agenda items 5.02, 5.03, 5.04, 5.05, 5.06, 5.07, 5.08, 5.09, 5.10, 5.11, 5.12, 5.13, 5.14, 5.15, 5.16, 5.17, 5.18, 5.19, 5.20, 5.21, 5.22, 5.23, 5.24, 5.25, 5.26, 5.27, 5.28, 5.29, and 5.30. I can count to 30.
I believe that is the record.
I think so.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Now I would entertain a motion to recess into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel.
So moved.
All right, a roll call vote. Sherry?
Yes.
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 All right, we are recessed into executive session. We'll take a 2-minute break and come back together. And Sherry, that concludes your official service. Thank you.
No, she's coming. She's coming into executive. She's coming in the public portion. And we're going to meet in the little room we've met in before with the pleather chairs and the big table. So Jason could set this room up for a PD session.